Member for Karama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This evening I wish to speak directly to my electorate constituents, particularly those living in Karama and Malak, about the biggest single issue they continue to raise with me, namely antisocial and criminal behaviour associated with certain public housing tenancies in my electorate. In doing so, Madam Speaker, I seek leave to table my recent newsletter that I've personally hand-delivered across the electorate during the last 3 weeks, and to quote some excerpts from it. Is leave granted, Madam Speaker? Aye. All right. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I'll take it. Okay.
The question is that the paper be tabled, is that
Yes.
right? Am I guessing right? Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary, no.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay. Madam Speaker, I also want to reassure those residents that have contacted me about their concerns this week, whilst I've had parliamentary commitments, that I will look to meet with them next week. These include Stephen Drummond from Mistletoe Crescent, Karama, Trevor Geyer from Leobone Court, Karama, Andrew Goulis from Hawkins Court, Malak, Ian Baker from Whitby Court, Karama, and Linda Dempster from Tabletop Place, Malak, and Anita from Sedge Court, Karama. I also wish to acknowledge that whilst we inherited a totally dysfunctional public housing system from the previous 8 years of a Labor government, it is now the responsibility of our CLP government to fix it. Having been in government for 11 months, we have started to make some progress, but we still have a long way to go. Let me quote directly from my newsletter updating about our government's efforts to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour, including our public housing reforms. And if I go to my first page, I'll just take an excerpt from there. Dear residents of Karama, Malak and Nucky Lagoon, crime and antisocial behaviour continue to be among the most frequent concerns raised of me. I want to assure you that I continue to strongly advocate on your behalf in Parliament and to Government. While there is still work to be done, we are beginning to see some positive changes, including increased proactive policing in Karama and Malak, stronger enforcement measures and real consequences for offenders, and a more focused approach to dealing with irresponsible public housing tenants. And then I went into, I had another page referring to public housing reforms. I start off, dear residents, I continue to advocate on your behalf to address the serious issue of antisocial behaviour associated with some public housing tenancies across our electorate. And I share the frustrations of those residents who have yet to see much improvement since our government was elected just 10 months ago. But change is occurring, and we will be bringing in legislation later this year to make it easier to remove irresponsible tenants. And we are now in the process of establishing a new stream of police, public officers, safety officers with much stronger powers to deal with such antisocial behaviour in public places. Pleasingly, some residents are already seeing some results from my strong advocacy on their behalf, and I will continue to advocate on your behalf. And I now quote from a letter that I received from a resident. Hi Brian, I wanted to update you on Delwood Crescent housing call today and inform me that they have taken the house back. Tenants are out, thankfully, and housing will now renovate, and they have locked the gate to stop squatters going in. My partner and I are so grateful. We hope the house gets sold off to good caring people or tenanted to good tenants. It has been a total nightmare living next to the previous tenants, something we suffered for years. We always felt unsafe. The filth from that house spilling into everyone's yards, years of sleepless nights, years of feeling scared in our own house, years of not inviting people into our backyard as we were too embarrassed of expletives being yelled continuously, as well as drunken fights. In their absence, we can make sure our grandson does not grow up thinking this is the norm. Thank you for your support and help. Your predecessor always gave us lip service, but nothing got done, and we continue to live the nightmare for years. Not sure what you did, but housing finally did something. Thank you. That was a Malack constituent. Madam Speaker, I continue to raise these issues on behalf of the residents directly with my government colleagues, including the Minister for Housing, the Honourable Steve Edgington, and his agency. And when possible, I also facilitate opportunities for residents to talk directly to the Minister, which he very obligingly accepts. For example, at the Darwin show last weekend, I was able to introduce Kim from Mistletoe Crescent, Karama, Jam from Applegum Drive, Karama, and Mark from Tabletop Place, Malack, to Minister Edgington, and Doreen from Lipia Court, Karama, to the Chief Minister to discuss their serious concerns with antisocial behaviour with neighbouring public housing tenancies. Residents of Karama and Malack, apart from the usual antisocial behaviour issues of violence, screaming and drunken behaviour, rubbish littered and vandalised properties and overcrowding with visitors and continual disruption to your neighbourhood, I also raised the issue of over-density of public housing in Karama and Malack. During the recent estimates meetings held by the Legislative Assembly, I ascertained that the option of selling off some of these properties off, possibly to first home buyers, is not current government policy. Having said that, I will continue to advocate that we do look at such an option, as will my fellow MLAs, the members for Blaine and Drysdale in Palmerston, two electorates that have similar issues to those that we have in my electorate of Karama. And so tonight I'm going to give the example, I'm going to highlight Mistletoe Crescent and Sedge Court in Karama as a classic example of this overdensity with multiple public housing properties managed by Mission Australia. And it's fair to say that residents of Mistletoe Crescents, along with many other streets in Karama and Malack, including Squire Court, Sedge Court, Tabletop Place, Forsyth Court, Rickards Court, Peckarlin Road and Abbott's Crescent, suffer severely from this overdensity and have their lives destroyed by multiple public housing tenancies being overcrowded with visitors, continual drunken behaviour and properties in disrepair and filled with rubbish. Residents of neighbouring private houses report that it's like living in a war zone and the value of their own properties have dropped significantly. In some cases, they are unable to sell. So let me list some of the houses that are currently managed by Mission Australia as a clear example of this overdensity which we as a government need to address. I go to Mistletoe Court. 11 Mistletoe Court, 13 Mistletoe Court, 16 Mistletoe Court, 17 Mistletoe Court, 21 Mistletoe Court, 23 Mistletoe Court, 25 Mistletoe Court, 27 Mistletoe Court, 31 Mistletoe Court, 33 Mistletoe Court, 39 Mistletoe Court, 41 Mistletoe Court, 42 Mistletoe Court, 43 Mistletoe Court, 47 Mistletoe Court, 5 Mistletoe Court, 69 Mistletoe Court and 71 Mistletoe Court. Now, if that's not overdensity, I don't know what is. And there's a really small street called Sedge Court, and yet it contains 14 Sedge Court, 16 Sedge Court, 2 Sedge Court, 4 Sedge Court, 6 Sedge Court,
Please
7
pause.
Sedge Court, 8 Sedge Court.
Take your seat, Member for Karama. What's your point of order, Member for Gwadja?
I asked you to make a ruling. These are people's personal addresses. Whether they are public or private housing should be irrelevant, and there's a breach of privacy.
Madam Speaker, let me just say, I'm not saying every house is a problem house. I'm talking about the density of the houses, and this is on factual.
Madam Speaker, point of order. The point is about the privacy of people who live in that house.
Okay.
He's come in here and he's putting the address of
Okay.
people's houses, of their privacy.
Okay.
You do not have the right to come in here and put
Take
people's
your
address.
seat.
It's an
Member
absolute
for-
disgrace.
Member for Daly, please, everyone take your seat. I didn't think of the implications of what the member was saying at the time. I agree that there are sensitivities around identifying people who live in public houses. In itself, it is not inadmissible that you talk about these things in Parliament, but I would urge caution and suggest that you perhaps limit or retract what you've put on the public record.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll say again, I've said this before, I'm all for public housing. I'm not saying that every house is a problem house at all. What I am saying
Please
is
take
there
your
is
seat, Member for Daly.
the issue is over density, and I am
Please
highlighting
take
that
your
issue.
seat, Okay, I've heard what you've said and I'm taking it very seriously. Take your seat. I think the member for Daly is making a point here, but it is your call. You have to live with what you're putting on the public record. You have to take the risk of what you're doing. These houses that are public houses are on the public record anyway. We can all access that information if we choose to. So I'm not going to instruct you to withdraw it, but I would urge caution that the point that the opposition members have made is correct. It is sensitive and it is rather contentious that you're reading it onto the Hansard record tonight. But you obviously understand what you're doing, so I will leave it with you, but I urge caution.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Look, I won't go any further on this, but I've said I won't go any further.
It is the members' decision and there'll be no more debate on it.
What I have to do is I continue to echo that many residents come about the over-density issue. We do need to tackle it, and maybe selling off the houses is one option. Thank you.
Look, please take your seat, Member for Daly. You are instructing me in my job and I take exception to that. Given that there were interruptions to the member's adjournment speech, I allowed him an extra 30 seconds and I don't have to explain that to you. Member for Nightcliff, you have the call.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to give my adjournment tonight.
You can
yeah.
take your seat. Member for Daly, you can leave. You can leave for an hour under Standing Order 49, I think it is. I've had enough of your interjections. Please continue. Member for Nightcliff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And for what it's worth, I'd also like to put on the record that it's absolutely unacceptable to put people's private addresses. You could have simply said 7 properties on Mistletoe, whatever it was, but you chose to name people's private addresses and that was not acceptable.